Hi all, welcome to video T10 of genai using langchain and databricks playlist. So in last video we have seen what all parameters we can specify while defining the model, right, while using a chat model, and we have understood I think around 10 parameters that we can use, right, in details. Okay, fine. This video I wanted to just give you an idea, a conceptual idea, uh, the difference between open source models and closed source models. Okay, open source free, right? Closed source, they are paid models, right? So let's start understanding closed source or paid models, right? Now in case of closed source or paid models, these models are stored by the company, right? Whoever has developed, by the developer company, okay, on their server, right? They have kept it on their server. Okay, the api is created to hit these models, right? We can hit these models using api, right? Anyone in the world can hit. Okay, in case of basically closed source models, we need to pay for api we use, right? We need to pay for the usage, basically, right? Pay as you go, simple as cloud, right? Whatever tokens we saw, the tokens concept in last video, right? So the number of tokens we use, the payment or chargeability is based on number of tokens we hit and we retrieve from the llm, right? Now since this model is on another server, we are just hitting this using api. We do not have control, right? User has no control, as these are stored on developer company servers, right? Developer company servers, right? Now open source or free models, right? Free models, right? Now the open source models are stored on internet after it is developed, right? After it is developed. Now as a user, we can download this model. We can download and fine tune, right, based on our requirement. Okay, and deploy to, we can deploy this over internet also, right? The whole control is with the user, right? So there are two ways we can access open source or free models. We can hit their apis, or we can download to our local and use, right? Now let's do a quick comparison between let's say open source and closed source models based on few factors. The open source, right? Open source, they are free to use, right? And closed source, right, paid usage or pay as you go, pay as you pay as you use, maybe, right? Let's write this way. Okay, this is cost parameter. Now control parameter, right? We have seen the full control for open source, right? First is like, let me do this way. Open source, full control with the user, full control with the user, right? And closed source, it's full control with the provider, right? Full control with the provider, right? The next thing, data privacy, very important point, right? This is, in this AI world, data privacy has got, you know innumerable, because a lot of data is getting shared with llms, right? And how we maintain data privacy is going to be the next big field in the world of ai, right? As we have the prompt engineering, right? So something around data privacy is going to come, and it is going to be, you know, massively important. Okay, fine. So open source model work on local, so works on local, so can be worked with sensitive or private data as well, right? And for closed source data, privacy can be concern, right, if not taken care, right? So I'll give you a recent example, right? We did some participation in one of the Databricks hackathon, and there we were working on some medical use case, right? So there we had few patient details, few PII related to patient, like patient registration number, patient date of birth, patient name, right? So all these personal identifiable information, PII, we had to encrypt, right? We encrypted that and then we sent to LLM, right? So data privacy can be a concern in case of closed source model if we do not take a good care of the data, right? Now the model customization, right? Very simple to understand. Open source can be customized. We can download and we can customize that. Okay, so customizable, right? And closed source, no. The way it is available, you have to use, not customizable. I don't know if customizable word is present in English language, but it's okay. As far as we understand, it's totally fine, right? Deployment, right? Deployment. Open source can be deployed on the local, right? Can be deployed, can be deployed on the local, right? Or cloud, right? Closed source not applicable. It you don't have anything with the deployment. We're just hitting their APIs and using. That's all, right? Now, these open source models we can download from the Hugging Face. Let me go to Hugging Face, right? It is Hugging Face is basically the largest repository of open source LLMs, right? If I go to models, I think yes, my login is already present, right? So to use this, the same way I told you, right? We have to create an API key for closed source models. Here also you have to do the same, right? So see how many models are there. 28 lakhs 24,014, right? For text generation, right? For image to text and n number of models, right? So this is largest repository of open source LLMs. And as I said, there are two ways we can use open source models, right? Two ways, two ways we can use open source models. First one is hit the model API, right? Using Hugging Face inference, using HF inference API, right? API hit. And second, download locally and use. These are the two ways we can use the open source models, right? Now, you will see like, right, you will slowly use, if you try using this I would say open source models, right? If you do a lot of usage, you will face the problem of the token, right? Token are exhausted, right? And then you will have to go and you will have to create a new account, you will have to use some other model, right? That issues you will face. Open source, they are free, but it is not that they are unlimited free. No, there are few limits also, right? And there are few disadvantages of open source models, right? Let me tell you what are those disadvantages. First, advantage, yes, it is totally free, right? All these are advantages. See, free to use, then full control is with the user, data privacy, nothing to worry. You can customize that, you can deploy this on your local and cloud. All these are advantages, but there are few disadvantages also, right? if you want to download this model on your uh, on your local, you need huge hardware requirement, right? Hardware requirement, because these models are having billions of parameters, right? So their sizes are in varies from GBs, TBs, right? So you need huge hardware investment or requirement, right? Next disadvantage, complex to set up on local, right? They're complex to set up on not that easy, right? Not that easy, definitely. Then the raw models lack fine tuning, right? You cannot use basically any downloaded model for your, let's say, some medical use case or some banking use case. No, it has to be fine tuned, right? And then next one is limited multimodal multimodal abilities. Multimodal as in one, let's say, multiple things in a model, text to image, also image to some, text also, whatever, right? So open source are having limited multimodal abilities, right? Now on this Hugging Face, what you have to do, if you want to use any model, right, you have to sign up to this Hugging Face, right? You have to create the API key, right? And then you can start using. Okay, this Databricks Gamma, this is also present on Hugging Face. Let me show you that. I'll go to let's say models. Okay, this is Databricks Gamma 312p I'm using. Okay, let me filter this model. Okay, if I go to this, it will be present in, definitely it will be in catalog, right? Under where system AI models, right? If you see, the Gamma 312v IT model is a text generation model released by Google. It is an ML flow model that packages Hugging Face implementation for Gamma 312b model using transformer flavors in ML flow. It has 12 billion parameters. Offers comparative processing speed and fine tune, especially for dialogue use cases. Fine tune specifically for dialogue. Dialogue as in a kind of a chat use case, right? Okay, fine. So yeah, that is about, I mean, a high level difference, advantages and disadvantages of open source and closed source models, right? Conceptually, very important to understand all these things, right? Now I think we have covered a lot of things so far. We started with the langchain, right? Then we understood the purpose of langchain. We understood all the components of langchain model. We understood prompts, chains, indexes, memory, agents, right? Then we understood the setup. We understood all the installations that we have done in Databricks, right? We have understood how to do a basic coding using Databricks and LangChain with open source chat models and closed source chat models. In the last video, we have understood about all the parameters that we can use, while defining a model. And in this video, we have understood the clear cut, crystal clear difference between open source model and closed source model, right? Fine, that's all. I think in the next video, we will be starting with the embedding, right? What is embedding and what all things, right? I'm going to give you all the details, right? Do not worry, right? Fine, that's all for this video. I hope you are enjoying. I'm enjoying a lot, right? Fine, that's all. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much.